this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And as a black...
Why we as Americans have to reconnect with our roots.
The depth of suffering and the height of joy that these songs can articulate.
One way that we can explain the Mother of God is in song. My mother.
So how did we get where we are today? A discernible shift in the place of
deciding what is most important in our lives.
Enlighten my darkness. The Holy Spirit is able to.
He said, if you're going to participate in the movement, you've got to prepare yourself.
And you guys know the story of St. Moses. The first couple sections of this are not very saintly. And I ask you to bear with it a little bit. And in fact, I may have to tone down a little bit of the language. I wanted, in writing about St. Moses, to do two things. To first of all, do honor to a tradition that I'll talk about more in our breakout session, which is the tradition of sonnet crowns that are written about heroes of the African American tradition and sort of people who we remember from Black history. Marilyn Nelson is the poet that I follow in this. Most importantly, she has one of the greatest sonnet crowns of the last few decades called A Wreath for Emmett Till, which I strongly recommend you check out. So when I came to write about St. Moses, I wanted to write a series of sonnets about him. And I quickly realized that there are some stories from before he becomes a Christian that are a little rough. So I'm going to share some of these sonnets with you. He gets better, you know. He gets better. I'm going to put this down so I can, yeah, good, thanks. This is called A Crown for Abba Moses. It's 7 sonnets. We'll see how many we get through. Number 1. When Moses had escaped from slavery, many years before he was called Abba, he settled on the best course for his life. To be a thief, he said, and lead a crew of thieves, to teach the sons of jackals cross the Nile the lesson we learned while still inside. The longest lasting memories you make are scars you carve into your enemy. They sought him in Egyptian caves, the khans, the lads intent on sex and coin, the slaves who sickened of their masters and so slit their greasy gullets on a summer night. The name of Moses echoed down the Nile. He'll snuff a snitch or steal your girl for fun. Part 2. This hustler called Big Xerxes had 3 rams he'd brag about. He'd spit at Moses as he passed him on the street. He'd flash his gold and wager it and win. Well, Moses got dumb drunk enough one night to pay him back. He left his crew carousing in the hills and swam across the Nile to Xerxes' farm, a knife, a forearm long, gripped in his teeth. But as he was about to step inside the house, a dog leapt up within the doorway and almost caught his windpipe in its jaws. Undaunted, Moses left the house alone. Instead, he found Big Xerxes' boasted rams and ate their butchered chops beneath the moon. Part 3, in which Moses starts to get better. It was a hell of hiding places, that raw, earth-roofed desert chapel that he could have ripped the walls off of. Cops from Cairo paced around the chapel several times, described the suspect to the monks, a big guy, black, the kind you'll hear about in town, who seal your daughter day before her wedding, leave her bruised up in a dish somewhere. The monks all shook their heads and looked confused. A few were black as he, but thin, as if they never got enough to eat. He ate their bread, but shrugged away their invitations to come into church. He stuck around a week, a month, a winter. Then he tried to pray. Part 4. He came to Abba Isidore one day and said, "My father, I have learned to pray my daily rule now to the point that I have come to like it. But more strong than that are my desires for women. Every night I strap my sandals on and head down to that place by a woman, climb in bed, then wake up in my cell unsatisfied. How can a man with so much passion not give in and have his way?" The elder took young Moses to the tower's top and said, "Look west." And there were swarms of demons clogged in every desert cave. Look east, and there were twice as many angels strapped for war. Part 5. A monk was caught in petty lies and sin, and so the monastery priests had called a meeting in the church, so each could come and chide the wayward one. But Moses would not come. The priest insisted on his presence there, but Moses still delayed. Impatient, all marched out to find him at his cell. Toward them, he limped beneath a ragged sack of sand, which slopped behind him by the bucketful. He sighed, "My brothers, see this bag of sand? It holds my many sins. They pour behind me, but I cannot see them, for I come to judge my brother and ignore myself." And so they each forgave the wayward monk. Part 6. The 4 thieves found him at his evening prayers. He's middle-aged, his knees look weak, a quick and easy score. His altar looks like gold. 2 pulled their shivs and flanked him. 2 moved toward the lute. His leg swept like an iron broom. They dropped, their ankles numb. He hulked erect and whipped his blanket round their aching heads, then carried them all bruised and bundled up into the chapel, dropped them on the stone. They recognized him. "Moses? Isn't he the one that laid the Pharaoh's daughter? He burned Ophrah's farm." They waited for his knife. But Moses said, "A Christian does not kill." They gaped, then bowed, then asked him how to pray. Part 7. One morning, Abba Moses said, "They come, a host of thieves, fulfilling what Christ said, that those who live by blades will die by them." The brothers swore to stay with him, but he persuaded all but 7 monks to flee. They waited till the dust of hooves was close, then filled the chapel. Sunset filtered down and lit each forehead like a laurel crown. Then Abba Moses felt a pang of lust for one more girl before the end. He smiled at his exhausted passion's final try. Next came a fear of death. This too he mocked. He'd readied to be murdered all his life. Then blade glare. Then escape from slavery. Thank you.